Hello, and welcome back to Let's Get Lit. In today's podcast, we'll be discussing Chapter 5 of the Odyssey. The previous chapters are all up on YouTube, so please take a listen to those if you haven't already. Are you guys ready? Okay, on our marks, get set, let's go. We start out this chapter in Mount Olympus. Zeus has called council, and Athena begins telling everyone the sufferings of Odysseus. She tells everyone that she hopes there are no more just and fair rulers in Ithaca. She hopes they will be only cruel and mean to everyone from now on. The reason for this is because everyone back in Ithaca has forgotten the reign of Odysseus, how he was fair and just. She then goes on to say how Odysseus is stuck in a cave with the nymph Calypso, who will not let him go. How he has no ship or crew, so he is unable to escape. Also, that wicked people are now trying to murder his son Telemachus, who is trying to find answers about his father. Zeus replies and asks what was she talking about. Was she not the one who sent him there? Also, she's perfectly able to protect Telemachus herself. Zeus then calls upon Hermes to go to Calypso's island. He is to tell Calypso that it is time for Odysseus to go home. He is to build a raft and set sail for 20 days. He will then reach Sycharia, the land of the Phaeacians, who will honor him. They will give him a ship and riches, and he will sail home. Hermes puts on his golden sandals, and off he goes. He rushes down and flies over the water until he reaches the island. He then makes his way to the cave where Calypso lives. As he got closer to the cave, he saw just how beautiful it was. Outside, there were many trees growing all around, all different kinds with lots of different birds populating them. There were vines that grew luxurious grapes around the mouth of the cave as well. There were also 4 running channels of water that cut through the cave to water all of the beautiful flowers that surrounded it. Coming from inside, he could smell sandalwood and cedar burning on the fire. Hermes stopped for a minute to admire the cave. Hermes then enters the cave, and Calypso saw him at once. She instantly knew who it was. The gods all know each other. Homer tells the reader that Odysseus is not in the cave with Calypso, but he is out on the shoreline. He's looking out at the sea, which is making him more and more heartbroken. We then snap back to reality with Calypso welcoming Hermes and tells him whatever Hermes wants, she'll do, if it's reasonable, because Hermes does not come to visit her often. She offers him food and drink, she offers ambrosia and nectars, which we find out is foods and drinks of the gods. When he ate and drank his fill, he began to speak to her. He tells Calypso that he has come here by order of Zeus, for no one is to cross him or not obey his orders. Hermes admits he wouldn't have come otherwise of his own accord. There are no cities or people to give him offerings or hecatombs on this island. He says that he has come to tell Calypso that she has to set Odysseus free, for it is his time to leave. He shall not perish on the island. He shall return home to his own country and land. Calypso gets really upset and she goes off on Hermes. She tells Hermes how all of the gods get really jealous when one of their own kind fall in love with a mortal. She gives an example of Dawn and Orion, and Demeter and Iason. She then goes on to tell how Zeus struck Odysseus' boat with a lightning bolt, which is how he ended up on her shore anyways. She took care of Odysseus and grew fond of him. She agreed to let him go, but she can't help him with the boat, for she has no servants to help with that. She also said that she'll give him great advice that will bring him home safely. Hermes interrupts her and tells her to send him away then, or Zeus is going to be mad. Hermes then flies away, and Calypso went to Odysseus. She knew that he would be on the shore crying for his family and home. She knew he was homesick, and she knew that though he slept with her by night, it wasn't by his own choosing. When she got home, she told him, "My poor man, I will let you leave. Go and build a raft, and I'll prepare you some bread, wine, meat, and water, so that you won't starve on your journey. I will also bring you clothes and a good wind to sail home on. Hopefully, he will reach home by way of the gods." Odysseus believes this is a trick. He tells her that he will not build a raft unless she promises that she has no intentions of foul play. She takes his hand and swears to heaven and earth that she's being truthful, and that she is not up to anything. She tells him that she is truthful, and if she were in his place, she would go. After this, Calypso takes Odysseus' hand, and they go back to the cave and ate and drank. She got Odysseus mortal food and drink, but brought ambrosia and nectar for herself. After they ate, she told Odysseus, "So you want to go soon? If you were to know of the great sufferings before you, you would rather want to stay with me, keep house, and become immortal." She says that she knows he misses his wife, but Calypso is more beautiful. but that the gods shouldn't compare themselves to mortals. Odysseus tells Calypso that she is beautiful, and that his wife is only a mortal woman and not to be compared to the beauty of a god. He tells her that he has to go, and that he is not worried about troubles. He's already had many of those, and he can pretty much deal with whatever happens to him. Then the sun went down, and they went to bed. The next morning, they get up and get dressed. Calypso makes Odysseus an axe, specifically for him to use. This would help speed up his process in building the raft. She then led him to the best trees on the island, and she went back home. She got him more materials for him to use, and he finished building the raft. It took Odysseus 4 days to build this raft. On the 5th day, Calypso washes him and gives him everything he'll need for his trip. Odysseus sets sail and sails for 18 days. When he could just start to make out the shoreline of the Phaeacians, Poseidon, who was coming back from Ethiopia, saw him. Poseidon feels betrayed that the gods have changed their mind about Odysseus. Poseidon says that Odysseus will still have many hardships yet to come. Poseidon brings all of the storm clouds and winds to where Odysseus is at. The sea begins to churn and waves get bigger and bigger. Odysseus thinks to himself, "Shit, Calypso was right." He then goes on to say that he thinks he surely is about to die. How he wishes he were to die at Ilium instead. At least he would have had proper burial. As soon as he said this, a giant wave came and hit his boat. It sent Odysseus far away from the raft. The raft was broken into many pieces, and for a while Odysseus was drowning. It took everything he could muster to keep from drowning. He even took off all of his clothes that Calypso had gave him. He caught sight of part of a raft and swam towards it. He held on for dear life. Ino, a sea goddess, saw all of this and made her way to the raft of Odysseus and took a seat. She told him that Poseidon was angry with him, but that he won't kill Odysseus. She tells him to leave the boat and swim for the shore. She then gave him her shawl and told him to wear it around his chest. It is enchanted and will get him to the shore safely. Once he gets to the shore, then he has to throw it back into the ocean for her. She then disappeared back into the water. Odysseus is confused and thinks that the shawl is a trick, so he decides to stick with the boat until it breaks. Then he'll use the shawl to swim. Poseidon sees that Odysseus has got onto a log of the raft. He sends another giant wave, and he breaks the log apart. Odysseus holds on to a small piece and puts the shawl under his arms, and he starts to swim. Poseidon, seeing this, was pretty happy with himself. He congratulated him on not killing Odysseus, but for also not letting him get away too easy. He then drives his horses and himself back to his palace. Athena calls back the winds, except for the north, and calms the waters until Odysseus is on shore. It took Odysseus 3 days to float until he reached the shoreline. He was super excited to see the shoreline in a very near distance. Like when a child sees their father happy again after their father had been angry with them. Odysseus soon realizes that as he gets closer and closer to the shore, there's no place for him to enter safely. He thinks to himself if he should risk trying to swim in or try to swim around the island to find a better entrance. If he swims around, Poseidon might drag him back out to sea and one of his monsters might get him. He didn't have much time to think as a giant wave crashed into the rocks. He grabs a hold of the rock, but it's no use. Another wave rips him from the rocks, tearing his hands and feet up as he is sent back to sea. He was surely a goner if Athena hadn't helped him out. She gave him wits, and he starts to swim around the island, looking for a place to swim into shore. He came to the mouth of a river and thought that might be the best place to come in, so he prayed to the river god. He prayed to the river god to grant him a safe journey inward. He asked him to have mercy upon him, for he was tired. The river god calmed the waters, and Odysseus made it to shore. He was exhausted, and he passed out. His hands and feet were bruised, and his whole body was swollen from being tossed against the rocks. When he came to, he tossed the shawl back into the water for Ino, and she received it. He then ran to the earth and kissed it, happy to see land again. Odysseus then wonders what will happen to him. If he stays at the riverbed, then the cold and damp would get to him. If he goes to a cave and gets warm, some savage animal might come and attack him. He decides that he would go into the woods. There he found 2 olive trees growing together to make one. It created a shelter for him that kept out the sun, the rain, and the wind. There were a lot of leaves under the trees, and so Odysseus covered himself up and laid down. Athena then sent sleep to him, and he forgot all about his sorrows. This is the end of Chapter 5 of the Odyssey. Thank you for listening all the way through. We hope you're enjoying this series as much as we are. Remember that if you like these podcasts, please subscribe and share with your friends. And remember, guys, always stay lit.